The world as we know it is changing. Constant talks of war, civil unrest, and what seems to be a very unpredictable future in the hands of a government that may or may not take care of you. In this series, I'm going to show you the very basics that you are going to need to know in the event of leaving your home and being able to protect your family. Now, when it comes to understanding basic bushcraft and survival skills, there are really 4 key areas that you want to break it down into. Now, the first one is going to be shelter, the second one is going to be water, the third one is going to be fire, the fourth one is going to be food. Now, obviously that's not in no particular order. Depending on the situation you find yourself in, you're going to need to focus on one over the other. Now, to be completely transparent with you, when it comes to food, foraging, hunting, that is by far my weakest point. I couldn't even score myself on that chart.
Jesus Christ. That's Jason Bourne.
But when it comes to shelter building, drinking safe water and firecraft, they're probably my strongest areas and areas in which I'm going to be able to share with you in order for you to learn and to get yourself into a position where you feel confident enough to come out and to practice these skills. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you need them, you're going to be able to execute. So in order to get yourself out here and practice any of the skills I'm showing you today, you're going to need a very few basic bits of kit. So the first thing you're going to need is a good quality tarp. And by good quality, it doesn't need to be really expensive. It just needs to have a few basic things. So I get mine from DD Hammocks, which is a British company. And the reason why this is good is, one, I've probably used this for about 5 or 6 years and it's never let me down. But 2, you want to get something that's got toggle points here, and I'll show you what they are in a moment. Now, the second thing you want to get yourself is some tent pegs. I got these from Amazon, I think, cost me about 10 quid. Now, don't overthink the tent pegs, doesn't matter too much, but they are worth getting. I usually just make them, but I have found myself in a few situations recently when I've done a natural navigation course where there wasn't any trees around. The third thing is going to be some good quality cord. So I use climbing cord, but you can get paracord from your local camping shop or from Amazon or wherever you shop, and that will definitely do the job. So there's 2 things you want to think about when it comes to setting up a lean-to shelter with a tarp. The first one is common sense, is spacing. These tarps are obviously quite big, so you want to make sure that you've got enough space between the 2 anchor points where you'll be able to get the tarp nice and taut, okay? The second thing, and I see this all the time, especially when I take sort of beginners out camping, is the tree alive? A lot of times people will just tie off to anything, but the risks involved of doing that, if you tie your shelter to a dead tree, I'm not saying it's going to pull the tree down, but at the end of the day, you have secured your shelter to a tree that could potentially come down in the winds. And another thing you want to check out for is you just want to have a little look above and just see if there's any dead branches or if there's anything that could come down in the middle of the night. And what I usually tend to do is just scan about a little bit and just see if there's any dead trees within the area that could fall. So for example, if I set up my shelter here, especially on this is a hill, I don't know if you can see by the video, and there's a dead tree that's leaning this way, I'm not going to set up my shelter up there, or I'm going to take the tree down and use it for firewood. So these are the sorts of things that you really need to think about, because the last thing you want, unless you're really kinky, is a big old tree falling on you in the middle of the night. So I've checked the surrounding area. There's no dead standing trees that could come down and hit the tarp, or more importantly, hit me. And I've checked above and there's no dead branches that could fall down either. It's also worth mentioning that you should check for dead standing trees before you set up your shelter, because if you do need to cut it down, I have had camps where I've been on and I've thought I found the perfect spot. There's been a massive tree that's leaning towards where I've set up, and I've had to take my shelter down, cut the tree down, move it out the way, and then set up again. So just check these things and get in a habit of checking your environment completely before you actually decide where you're staying or where you're going to set up. So just using this tree as an example, so I can point the camera down, I'm going to show you what I believe is called a Siberian hitch knot. Now, I wouldn't get too carried away learning all the names of the knots unless you're somebody that likes to know all those things, but personally, I don't really care. As long as I know what I'm doing, I don't care if it's from Siberia, Nigeria, wherever. If it works in my book. So all you want to do this is going to be your tail end, right? I've got my bunch there. You just want to reach around like that. So you've got your tail and you've got that there. Now, this is very simple, this one. What I tend to do is just put that over my hand. This is my tail end and that's the line. Wrap this around my fingers, just like that, and then pull that under your main line. So to show you that again, just there, and pull it under. Once you've done that, all you need to do is feed the tail through, not all the way, so then you've got a loop. Then just simply, from there, just pull. So what I've got now is a nice secure slip knot there. And if I pull the main line, like that, that's secure, that's not going anywhere. What I would say, just for safekeeping though, get yourself a little twig, just put that through there and give your tail a little tug. And then what you've got is a very secure anchor point. So obviously I'm going to be using that tree, but I'm going to go quite high up because I always like to have quite a high shelter anyway. So I'm just using this tree for demonstration purposes. But as you can see, that is not going anywhere. That's nice and secure, and that's exactly what you want when it comes to setting up a shelter. So once you've got your anchor point, you just want to run this over at the same height, and then you're going to tie it to your second point. Now, I don't know if you can see from there, but you might notice that there's a few branches here. Now, don't get me wrong, if I was out on a camp and this was the best place or the safest place for me to stay, certainly if I was in a situation where I needed to get away for a while and get my head down in the forest due to whatever happening in the world, would I cut this off? Absolutely. Because I'm not staying here tonight and I'm not in a situation where I need to, I'm not just going to cut this off for the sake of it. At the risk of sounding like a hippie, just be mindful, because at the end of the day, although these things don't walk about and talk, they are alive, and I think they do deserve our respect. So for today's video, I'm just going to work around these. So what I'm going to do, I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, you can do it the other way. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to feed it around my little branches. So I've got my tail end around the tree, and we're going to do a double trucker's hitch today. So what you want is a lot of slack on this, because this part is going to be the bit that actually brings all of the tension to the ridgeline, okay? Now, double trucker's hitch sounds really complicated, and to be honest with you, it looks quite complicated, but once you understand what you're doing, you realise it's actually so simple. It just looks quite fancy, to be honest with you, but it's really not. So I'm going to make sure this is nice and tight, and I'm working off of this line. So forget about this for a minute, and you just want to get this line here. So hopefully you can see what I tend to do is just get my finger and thumb, and I put my finger on the lower part of the line, thumb on the top. Then you want to let go of a little bit of slack, and you just want to create a nice loop and pull it through, okay? So I don't know if you caught that. There might be a simpler way to show you, because I'm a creature of habit, as we all are. So just there, and create a nice loop. Then from there, you're just going to grab the main line and you're going to pull it towards the tree, okay? So as you can see, the reason I do it towards the tree is I can literally pull on that and it's not going to go anywhere. If I do it the other way, right, like that, and then I pull on it, you can't see that, but that's locked down on my finger, and now that's cinched, so I wouldn't be able to release my ridgeline quickly. So I'll do that again, just hit, like that, come over. Then from there, we've got our loop, which is obviously secure. Give it a little tug to check. We just want to feed the tail through there. Okay, what that then allows is me to tension that, like so. So effectively what we've got here now is a trucker's hitch, okay? So that's one loop, tail end goes through, and I can tension that as tight as I want. The reason it's called a double trucker's hitch, common sense, is there's two of these, okay? So let me try and do it without getting in your way. What I tend to do is reach around the tree, and from that point, do exactly the same thing. Pull that through. And now I've got my second loop here. You just want to pull that through, like so. And then as you can see from there, I can tension it these two are going to get close together. The more I pull on them, you'll see, the more I pull on these 2 points here, the closer they're going to get together. So you want to make sure that when you're pulling or creating your second loop, you want to do it from the far side of the tree. And then you want to pull that until they're like that. And from there, nice and simple, you just lock it off, right? Get a little loop, just like that. There, give it a little tug. So that is now secure. So if you can see, this ridgeline is very, very taut, okay? Same thing with that though. Get yourself a little twig. Never underestimate how useful twigs are in the woods. And I just like to lock that in so that's not going to come out in the night or if it gets windy, etc. So now that we've got our ridgeline set up, I'm going to show you how to do a Prossic knot, which is I don't know what they call it. I think it's like it's not a self-tensioning knot, but you'll see. Be a little bit more organised than me because I packed in a rush on my last camp and these should be a lot tidier. So I'm going to cut them off. Okay, so now we've got our ridgeline up, which is nice and taut. We obviously want to connect our tarp. So as I was saying to you earlier with these toggles, they basically just look like this. There's loads of different tie out points, and what that's going to allow you to do is you could do, for example, a lean-to where you have more of the tarp this way and just a small sort of bit over your head, or you can do an A-frame if it's really windy and drop the whole thing down. What you want to do is you want to use something called a Prossic knot, so you want to have a little bit of spare paracord left over. So I'll show you how to do that and you'll be able to tension the tarp nice and tight. So again, very, very simple. All I tend to do is just get it like that. Make a little knot. Some people do this in a really fancy way. I think it's unnecessary. Just get them two together. Like that. And basically all you've made is like a little noose, yeah? And then from there, you're just going to place this on your ridge. So what I do is just hold that like that, feed that through, pull it. Okay, so that's one. Give yourself a bit of space, and then you've got two. Now, some people I see making a really massive one and doing 5, 6 wraparounds. You don't need to. I always use two. So the reason why this is really handy, you'll see it in a minute when we set the tarp up, is if I just grab it here, I can move this all the way across the ridgeline, okay? But the moment I put tension on it from there, once it bites, that's not going to move, okay? So then from there, just move it over. Then using a trusty twig, just want to break a twig, feed this through there, and get yourself a twig, preferably green if you can get one. And then you just want to pull that over the first point at least. Pull that over to where you want your shelter to start. So nice and easy. I'm just going to do the same thing this side. Remember, just feed it through twice. And that should look like a little fist almost. When you pull down on it, you don't want the paracord to be lapping over each other. It should look nice and organised. Okay. Then I obviously want to, well, for this configuration anyway, feel free to make stuff up. Just want to get that like that. Move this over. So I've got these two in line. Get a little twig. Like so. Remember, we're putting this, the tail of this, through the toggle. I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes here. And then like that. So what that now allows is me to, and the good thing is as well, even if you fix your first point too far down, so for example, if I'm here like this, I don't know how much of this you can see. So if I've got my shelter here, and for whatever reason, I don't know what the reason would be, but I want to be more on that side, you can just get that there and run this down. Okay. It's Now give that a little tug. And what you've got there is a really tight and secure system. And then from there, I mean, we all know how to do this. It's very, very simple. You just want to get your tent pegs and tie them out. So that's one. Okay. So obviously if you want an A-frame shelter, you can simply just pin that to the floor. It's called an A-frame because from there it looks like an A, same as like just a normal roof. Now these setups are really, really good. A-frame setups are really, really good if it's very, very windy or you've got torrential rain but more coming in from the side. Here, I wouldn't worry about it too much because there's loads of coverage from the trees anyway. So we're going to get a little bit fancy. And this is probably my favourite setup to do off of a ridgeline. I'm just going to take this out. I would move one toggle up. So I'd get this through there. So I'd leave myself one run between these two toggles. So I'd fix this in. So just by simply moving this one over, so I've come from, that one was originally here, I've just moved it one over. Now what I've got is this, which will still keep me covered from the rain. Okay, and then I'll fix this off. So I've already got some paracord on this side. So what I would do is just get this here, and nice and simple. What I like to do as well is have one end higher than the other. So if it does rain, it just shoots off the lower end. Just there, come over once, come over twice, just come down. And then I would. So same loop that you use up there for the truckers, when you're setting up the truckers, do that. It's nice and tensioned. Put that in. Watch out for the roots. Do the same thing on the other side. Again, you don't need to stake this off into the floor. If you want to, you obviously can to make it a little bit more secure, but I prefer not to, just in case I want to sort of move it around or adjust it. Peg it out. So there you have it, guys. This is a nice, spacious lean-to shelter. This is probably my favourite setup, just simply because of the views and how spacious it is. Obviously, I showed you the A-frame shelter earlier on as well today. There was a couple of more that I did want to show you, but I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes at the moment. So I'm going to call it a day, but thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe to the channel. And just to give you a quick update, I was going to keep it a bit of a secret. I'm actually going to the jungle in Jamaica for a week by myself to put all of my skills under the test. I'm just going to be taking a pot, a machete and a hammock with me. Everything else I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be starting fires, friction fires, building a shelter with banana leaves and fishing, hunting, and just really putting my skills to the test. So please subscribe for that. And today's been really good practice with the mosquitoes because I anticipate there'll be plenty of them there. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully in Jamaica.